Hey guys, welcome to the Slipstream. This is episode 1, and these are your hosts. I'm Ash.
And I'm Trey.
And I'm Sachet.
And today we're going to be talking about F1 specifically and the most recent Grand Prix that happened, the Hungarian. It's the 14th race out of 24 for the season, most recent race of the F1 season, and a great way to end the first half as the drivers are now enjoying a well-deserved summer vacation in their hometowns. Fan favorites Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz are enjoying Monaco with their families, Yuki Tsunoda is pursuing his hobby of cooking in Japan, and Max Verstappen spending some quality time with his daughter Penelope and his new baby girl Lily, who was born in early May. To go over the circuit a little bit, it's called the Hungaroring Challenge, and it's super twisty, just like the name. It's narrow, it's dusty, and for those of you who don't know what it is, just think of it as a go-kart track for F1 cars. It has hardly any long straights, makes passing really tough, so strategy and clean driving are everything here. It famously doesn't get faster over the weekend because the dust never clears, and the drivers are always pushing really hard in qualifying to get a really good starting spot.
Oftentimes, it is deemed as Monaco without walls for
Absolutely.
the majority of the fan base. And this is honestly shown as a testament because Lewis Hamilton, if you remember the 2021 Hungarian Grand Prix, after Bottas was done doing F1 bowling with like half of the grid, Hamilton made the late stage decision, which was only a lap after the rest of the grid, to go onto the dry tires, and he worked his way up the field up until he approached Alonso's Alpine car, and he was stuck behind him for a solid 30 to 35 laps until he finally got past him and was able to claim third place in the Grand Prix, later converted second after Sebastian Vettel got disqualified, but couldn't beat Esteban Ocon for the race win.
I remember that. It was quite iconic. So going back to the 2025 Hungarian Grand Prix, Ferrari has had a pretty bad season so far with both Lewis Hamilton, who replaced Carlos Sainz, the Ferrari driver from 2024, and Charles Leclerc severely underperforming until the Hungarian Grand Prix, where Leclerc secured pole position, first place in the qualifiers. Exciting stuff. The qualifier positions were as follows, with Charles Leclerc in first, Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris from McLaren in second and third, George Russell from Mercedes in fourth, and Fernando Alonso from Aston Martin in fifth. Unfortunately, pole sitter Charles Leclerc did not keep up that performance for that actual race.
And this is actually due to an investigation made by the FIA post-qualifying that showed, I believe it was either their plankware or part of their chassis, that was just a few millimeters outside of the regulations. If they didn't get it fixed up, then they would have gotten disqualified after the race. And that took a lot of performance out of Charles Leclerc's Ferrari car.
And for those of you who don't know what a plank and chassis is, it's part of the car. Trey, do you want to explain what it is?
Okay, so it is basically a part of the skeleton of the car, everything that makes up from the axles to the rear and front wing, as well as the wheels, as well as the under tray, and even the seating and the positioning of the drivers. Each and every one of these components in a Formula 1 car or any sort of Formula Spec car like an Indy car, W Series, F2, F3, F4 is very crucial to the performance of the car and how it works throughout the season. So each of these changes needs to be made very promiscuously.
And the FIA is the administration that makes sure that everything is perfect, nothing is out of order, making sure that the cars all weigh the same, stuff like that. That's just a set of rules. And so Charles Leclerc did not keep up that pole position from qualifiers in the actual race due to, as Trey said, issue in the chassis. And so that was a crucial point in the race because Charles Leclerc actually got passed by George Russell, who overtook Leclerc. That was a issue there because Leclerc came in with a defensive move that earned him a 5-second penalty. A 5-second penalty or 10-second penalty sometimes are added to a driver's race time for infringements. It's a common penalty for incidences like these, like forcing another driver off track, speeding in the pit lane, or causing a minor collision. And this is added to a driver's planned pit stop that they must serve the 5-second or 10-second penalty. Otherwise, the penalty is simply added to their final race time. And so the final laps of the Hungarian Grand Prix were quite exciting. So Lando held his lead by just over 0.698 seconds over his teammate Oscar Piastri after a tense wheel-to-wheel battle. Thoughts?
Oh boy. And this is the part of the race that I just missed live, but of course it was shown on a replay because it was literally the lap before the penultimate lap. Mm-hmm. Oscar Piastri, he was about to go for a dive bomb move on his teammate, locks up wheels, misses him by just about 10-15 millimeters. It would have been crashed into his teammate, just like it would have basically just been a rerun of Canada 2025 when Norris went for the very risky move.
I was just
along the main straight at the end of the pit lane.
I was just about to mention the same thing. Also, Oscar Piastri is known for risky moves like this. I cannot remember which race it was. It was quite recent, but he was 4 inches.
Yeah, I believe it was Azerbaijan 2024.
Exactly.
He dove straight through on Charles Leclerc at the end of the main straight, maintained only between a 0.3 to 2 second gap until the end, when there was a safety car at the penultimate lap because Checo Perez and Carlos Sainz crashed.
Yes, and just to give you a little visual of how that went down, it was Max Verstappen and Piastri, and they were taking a turn. I can't remember which turn it was, and Oscar Piastri decides to go on the inside and just misses the barrier by less than 4 inches, and then comes out of the turn, just making it outside of Max Verstappen. Beautiful, but it could have caused a major collision, big risk on Oscar Piastri's end that we usually see from Dominator Max Verstappen. So it was interesting to see the tables turned.
Yeah, so definitely. And a couple of other points to go over in the Hungarian Grand Prix. Hamilton's abysmal qualifying, only qualifying P12, the same grid position. Just a few grid positions up from his Belgium qualifying, which of course he benefited from as a couple of penalties were applied, such as Yuki Tsunoda's pit lane start in the previous race, but he was still able to gain ground just on pure merit, and pit strategy of course got him up to 7th place, his worst finishing position, but of course it's still points for the Scuderia Ferrari. But in Hungary, he wasn't able to gain much ground, of course due to the twisty-turvy turns, but on merit, he just did not have the pace. His car looked like it didn't go through many fundamental changes. He started and finished in 12th place. Hasn't finished outside of the points, I believe, since the Qatar Grand Prix 2024. And even then, he still gained points for that weekend due to the sprint race.
And some even suggested that he was questioning his F1 future after this particular race. And he really gave us a scare.
He said it. I'm used to this, man.
That was.
I should be laughing. I almost cried.
That was a very sad point in his interview. He was like, I'm used to this." And as a driver in Ferrari, like, yes, like the strategy is quite bad, and just to see that heartbreak on an old time champion, it was so sad. He actually on social media, Hamilton came out with a bit of a scare last week on social media because he was like, "I have a big announcement." All of us, edge of our seats. All of us were on the edge of our seats.
And he was like saying, "It's a surprise.
It's a surprise," and everything. Like, "Oh, please do not announce your retirement." All of us would go into a spiral. Thank God it was just a non-alcoholic alcohol that he was promoting, but still, don't do that again.
I mean, given the fact that he wanted to announce his retirement now, especially given his involvement in the F1 movie, it's talk about crazy timing. I mean, seriously.
Yes, absolutely. Now, just to go over some of the team's highlights of the Hungarian Grand Prix. McLaren, absolute beasts. They scored their 200th F1 win, locking out first and second place, which is somewhat of their specialty, wouldn't you say, Trey?
I would absolutely say this is the most amount of 1-2s they've gotten in a season. Granted, previous F1 season had between 10 to 15 races, but still, though, for them to maintain this level of consistency with the tools and the regulations they have now in this turbo hybrid era, it feels like they have just... I'm convinced that Red Bull
Yes.
have dressed up
Yes.
into
Or they must have some sort
papaya
of magic
cosplay and just taking it on.
And I'm just going to clarify, we are astounded by McLaren in these last 2 seasons, 2024 and 2025, because it is so rare that a team gets a first and second place with their drivers. And okay, it's rare. The probability of happening that often is quite low. And McLaren have done it multiple times over the 2024 and 2025 seasons. They've secured it 4 straight 1-2 finishes this season alone. Okay, that probability is so low, I can't help but wonder if there's something illegal that McLaren's modifying with their car to make it lighter or more aerodynamic or something. But these are some crazy conspiracy theories that we will get to in a later episode, including the controversial Christian Horner scandal, who's the former principal of Red Bull. Now, inside McLaren, tension is brewing. So Piastri's radio comment, "I just want the best chance to beat Lando," made headlines. Okay, the team is stepping in to cool things down before the next race, the Dutch Grand Prix, because usually there's a number 1 and number 2 driver with each team. With McLaren, each driver we have is outperforming the other, and as much as these two are friends off track, they certainly are fiery people who butt heads often since the 2023 season.
Exactly, and a lot of people have been speculating because McLaren were so dominant, even in the first 3 to 4 races, and there was already a bit of a title brewing up, which became pretty imminent after the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix when Oscar Piastri took the lead with 99 points. We're speculating that it could become another Hamilton-Rosberg situation from 2016. If you don't know about that, I'll just give you the brief rundown in about 30 seconds. Hamilton and Rosberg fought for the title when they were both teammates at Mercedes-AMG Petronas. Go Silver Arrows.
What year was that?
It was in 2016, and
So relatively recent.
yeah, relatively recently. Rosberg took on a dominant start in the first 3-4 races, I believe, when he took the win and fastest lap in each and every one of those races. Then they collided at the Spanish Grand Prix, which led way for Max Verstappen to become the youngest race winner ever at 18 and a half years of age. Continued on a bit with a couple of flops from Rosberg and Hamilton, respectively. Rosberg specifically in Monaco when he dropped to 7th on the grid, and Hamilton when he had an engine issue in Malaysia. And he held off Rosberg at the series finale, the season finale, but lost the championship by 5 points.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Crazy. Bringing it back to Aston Martin at the Hungarian Grand Prix. They enjoyed a great day.
Woo-wee!
They enjoyed a great day with Fernando Alonso finishing P5. Great result for them ever this season. And Sauber's Gabriel Bortoleto had a breakthrough performance, scoring his career best finish in P6 and extending their run of point streaks.
And they're currently in a battle for 6th place with Aston Martin, but only if Aston Martin can keep up a consistent performance and keep up consistent upgrades, like the Sauber team, who will in the future be Audi in the 2026 season, then we could see a midfield battle actually start to brew.
I agree. That's kind of it for the Hungarian Grand Prix, but the Dutch Grand Prix is almost upon us. These guys are enjoying their summer vacation, but I can't wait to log in on Sundays and start watching this. So let's get into the Dutch Grand Prix. Who are the favorites? Obviously the McLarens. We have Oscar Piastri, who's favorite to win. He leads the Drivers' Championship and has been incredibly sharp this whole season, very on top of it. Lando is not far behind. He's red hot too, fresh off a strong Hungarian win. And Max Verstappen, he is the Dutch hero. The Dutch Grand Prix is his hometown. Always a crowd favorite. Got a fantastic record at Zandvoort, which is the circuit name for the Dutch Grand Prix. He's had 3 consecutive wins before 2024 at Zandvoort, but hasn't been very dominant this season. So we'll see how that goes.
Right, of course. And you have a couple of underliers not specifically for the win, but for maybe podium contention and maybe a high chance of getting the points. Personally, I think that Bortoleto could keep up, I guess, his groove. Hamilton, maybe he could pull something off if he gets his head in the game, doesn't call himself
Not
useless.
likely. Not likely. in my
Leclerc,
opinion.
he is obviously one of the underliers. We know that he's been able to push out a lot of performance, especially at Monaco, even though he did lose out to Lando Norris in pole position by about 0.5 of a second. He still put on a fight.
I agree. Now, let's get into the circuit a little bit. Zandvoort, what makes it special? Okay, again, it features very steep banked corners, and it has a famous final corner named after the Dutch legend Arie Luyendyk. Luyendyk, thank you. It's one of the trickiest and, in my opinion, the coolest turns in all of F1, okay? And because of that, passing here isn't easy. The drivers need strong qualifying pace and killer strategy to come out on top.
Exactly, and we have a couple of very special and very chaotic moments at each and every one of these turns. Like at the Tarzanbocht, we had Zhou Guanyu back in his Alfa Romeo days in 2023 go straight on in the middle of one of the rainiest races of that season, causing the red flag, and Pierre Gasly took advantage of this when he was at Alpine, he's still at Alpine, to box and put on the intermediate compound tires, and he got the advantage, and he was able to take home his first and only podium of the season. And, of course, a couple of other moments. I think we should focus on Pierre Gasly and just how dominant he's been. Like, 4th place in 2021 on his return, arguably his best season of his career. 2022, it was a bit of fault. 2023, 3rd place podium. And then 2024, he squeezed out a lot for Alpine, which I think ultimately led to them going from 9th to 6th in the World Constructors' Championship that year.
I agree. And just to get into a little, some predictions for the Dutch Grand Prix. Again, consistent with their events. The McLaren team, top form this year, 11 wins from 14 races and multiple 1-2 finishes. I think they're going to do it again, at least top 5. I expect another strong showing from them, with Lando carrying momentum from the Hungarian Grand Prix. Though taking a break might hinder that, but we shall see. But we also have to keep an eye for Max Verstappen. As I said, the Dutch hero will not go down without a fight.
No, sir.
Nope. And I think that considering that there may be overcast on the circuit, we know that Stroll works well in a variety of wet conditions. It doesn't just have to be pouring rain like Japan 2022, where he gets a start and passes 5 cars down the main straight first turn. It can also be relatively wet, and we saw that at the British Grand Prix when he was able to hold 3rd place for a solid 10 laps before Hülkenberg passed him and ultimately got his first podium in his 239 race career. So if there's some overcast, then I believe that Stroll has the chance to score a top 5 finish.
Nice. Okay, that's a controversial opinion.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Yep. And I guess we could further talk about some highlights about the track.
Okay,
I don't
yeah.
know. So let's go through each of the twists and turns. I already told you about Zhou Guanyu's moment at turn 1 that ultimately led to Gasly making a surprise call and scoring his first podium of the season and his 3rd and his first with Alpine, I believe. And then we also have the turns 4, 5, and 6, where Russell and Hamilton battled it out also in 2023, and Russell made the surprise save of the season when he just brushed the inside of the corner and just jolted the car a little bit. And then we also have a couple of other moments, like Kevin Magnussen going straight through the gravel in 2022 on lap 3. At turn 3, at probably, isn't it the steepest banking at turn 3 or turns 13 and 14?
I don't exactly remember.
I think it was
turn 3.
I think it was turn
probably
3.
13.
Yeah, it's about a 35-degree banking. I feel like it's just Daytona on shrooms, if we're being completely honest, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And a couple of other things to mention about the Dutch Grand Prix circuit, I guess, is that it is one of the most staggered races out there. If we look on the Wikipedia page, they oftentimes take a lot of breaks in between the circuits. If we look into the race history, it started off in 1950, the addition along with the 1951 events. So 1952, they officially started implementing the Dutch Grand Prix as an actual Formula One event.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, it was kind of taken off of the calendar, but then reintroduced from 1981 until about 1985. And then they took a 26-year hiatus until they eventually brought it back.
I'm so glad you mentioned that because the circuit itself is controversial. Not only the Dutch hero that dominates it, because it was deemed kind of an unsafe track a little bit, because
a safety concern.
It was a safety concern because of all these hairpin turns. And so, it was brought back just a couple years ago.
Right, and I meant to say 36 year, not 26 year. And I think this is due to, in part, a lot of the other historical circuits that not only existed at the start of the Formula One Championship in the 1950s, but also in the 1910s and 1920s when motorsport racing was becoming an actual funded thing with some commercial success. Like, if you've seen circuits like Old Monza in 1932 and 1933, or the Avis circuit, I believe it was in Germany or something like that, the one with the long straights that kind of goes this way and kind of goes that way.
Yes.
It had steep bankings that oftentimes the drivers would kind of veer off of course with, and it was a very fatal track. Oftentimes regarded as a little bit more fatal than Nordschleife.
Yes, I agree.
Okay.
All right.
And I guess we could probably move into what is your surprise prediction? Like, if you had to come up with a super surprise prediction of
one driver that would come out
on top with whether it be a surprise win from pretty low on the grid or a surprise podium, or who do you think is going to surprise you the most?
So this entire season, I've been holding out a lot of hope for these rookies, and they show a lot of promise. Now, I want to get into the rookies right now. I'm just going to name them. The rookies, were promoted from F2 into F1 just this season. And we have Isaac Hadjar, we have Gabriel Bortoleto, Kimi Antonelli, Ollie Behrman, and I'm missing one.
Liam Lawson? Or Franco Colapinto?
Oh, Franco Colapinto. Thank you. And so Hadjar, though he's been a little inconsistent, he's been getting those points. He's been racking up points. I truly believe that the past couple races, there have been problems with pit stops, with the strategy a little bit. Summer vacation have given them time to reflect, revisit these issues, and I think pit stop issues are easy to overcome. Strategy issues are easy to overcome, and Hadjar is a great driver overall. So I think that he's going to really come out with a bang this Dutch Grand Prix. Apart from that, we also have Antonelli. He kind of
he has not had a good European stint whatsoever.
I agree. He's kind of disappeared into the shadows a little bit these past couple races because
right, he has had the best finish at any European circuit of 10th place, and that was at Hungary, and he got pretty lucky with that he wasn't passed by. Who finished 11th place? Hülkenberg? No, Hadjar. And it shows that Hadjar is still contending and fighting for some form of points. But Antonelli, his only really good performance ever since summer has been Canada in P3, and that's because Mercedes actually came up with a good setup.
Hadjar is the driver for VCarb, and Antonelli is the driver for Mercedes. And Antonelli was performing way beyond anyone's expectations at the beginning of the season.
Oh yeah, like let's go over it. So
Let's go. Let's
Australia,
get into it.
Australia starts P16, kind of expected for any rookie, especially considering the
It's
state of
natural.
the
Yeah.
state of this Mercedes ever since the turbo hybrid era has not been very performative.
Mm-hmm.
But he goes from P16 to P4 in his debut race after Albon had a 5-second penalty applied to him.
That's Alex Albon from Williams.
Kind of robbed. And then P6 at the Chinese Grand Prix on pure merit. P6 Japan with the fastest lap of the race, the youngest fastest lap setter in Formula One history. Bahrain, he did drop to P11, but he was holding up a solid top 5 position throughout most of the race, ahead of Verstappen, the currently reigning world champion, and a couple of other good results, like Miami, pole position for the sprint.
It was incredible. It was an incredible race to watch.
But it doesn't take away from the fact that his European stint has not been up to par, and he's going to have to hope for a miracle or actually lock in.
I think he's pretty locked in. It may be just a car issue, strategy issue, but I truly think he's one of the best rookies, and this summer vacation, again, same as Hadjar, has given him time to reflect and improve. Now, Bortoleto, he might be continuing that high from the Hungarian Grand Prix. And, you know, as someone who watches a lot of F2, Gabriele Bortoleto actually won the championship for the F2.
Yeah, the F2 team. Wasn't it Rodensport or was it Carlin?
I'm not exactly sure. But this just goes to show you Gabriele Bortoleto, driver for Sauber, is a great driver, and he's just I don't know, his talents are kind of going to waste a little bit, I feel. So and the car is not that great. Like, he's a great driver, but the car is absolute craps. But I'm holding out hope for him to make it work for this Grand Prix.
I feel like this is kind of a repeat of Kimi Räikkönen,
Absolutely.
who, by the way, is a one-time world champion from Finland, the last world champion of Ferrari.
Yes, the one-hit wonder.
And I feel like it's a repeat of when Kimi Räikkönen had his rookie year at Sauber. Of course, scoring points on his debut in Australia for P6, and kind of outperforming the car in one way or another all throughout his rookie season. And then he was promised a much better sophomore season at McLaren, and he absolutely took away, just kind of like blew people's minds, contending for championships. I feel like Bortoleto could be emulating a career kind of like this with the promising Audi program.
I agree.
You know? And I guess I should probably kind of go forward with my surprise.
Oh, yes.
It kind of delves away from the rookies themselves.
Okay.
We know that Hülkenberg has also been pretty consistent in Sauber. And we know that Alonso, regarding his Hungarian Grand Prix stint with Aston Martin, can do it. He still has that fire in him. You know, the engine, he says his engines feel good, much slower than before.
That is true. But the thing is with Alonso, it's a high and a low. He's done that in the 2024 season as well. He's had some really good race wins, but I think he maxed out at like 1 or 2 race wins last season, and I think it's going to be the same for this one. I'm not really banking on a back-to-back win.
I guess so. And not to mention the fact that his 2023 season, where he came in 4th place in the Drivers' Championship with 206 points and 8 podiums, was a phenomenon beyond Aston Martin's comprehension. Even Lawrence Stroll himself probably was like kicking himself back from his seat in the first quarter of the season. But yeah, I feel like either of them could contend for a podium.
Absolutely,
if, considering the overcast or any mixed strategies, or if, I don't know, Lawson does his signature spin at one of those super tight corners.
That's Liam Lawson, a driver for V-Car.
V-Car. Remember, he's not here to make friends. He's here to win.
Yeah, right,
that's true. Lawson for you.
That is a reference to one of his interviews. He said that he's not here to make friends. He's here to win.
He's down to business, you know.
And that's really ironic because he hasn't gotten many points. I don't think he Does he have points?
He does. He actually has been locking in. Remember Austria?
Oh,
he actually
yes,
locked
yeah.
in.
Mm-hmm. But apart from that, I'm going to be upfront with you. He's not not performing that well. So it's ironic, but it is what it is. You know, his teammate Isaac Hadjar is performing much better than him.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, Sachi, you want to chime in and give us your surprises?
Oh, well,
We
my
know
surprises.
it's okay. We know you don't.
Yeah,
know
it's fine,
much,
it's fine.
But just spit out like
throw
one
something out
driver
there.
name, and if
Well, it would be Verstappen, I would say, because I mean, as we
Okay.
discussed throughout
Yeah.
this podcast, and I mean, this is slightly unrelated, but like during the Austrian Grand Prix at 2025, which coincidentally coincided with the release of the Brad Pitt F1 movie, right? He actually did gain like another point, like one of those points where a driver crashes into you and you gain like some point,
Penalty points?
penalty
Penalty.
point,
Yeah, penalty points.
Yeah, so that gives him like a grand total of 3 on his record. So although he's not been doing great in the last season, maybe like his penalty point could be a sign of good luck potentially, but that's thinking superstitiously. So
Okay, then.
so yeah, I mean, it's not been his season for sure, but I mean, he's the Dutch hero. We'll see if he bounces back, and I have hope for him.
Absolutely, absolutely. And considering the fact that it could be a repeat of 2024 where Orlando portals the start and Verstappen just is able to dive through.
Yeah,
Indeed.
just a little background about that. Lando is actually very notorious for securing pole position at qualifiers and bottling turn 1 of the race, and it's happened more than once. So
Yeah, the worst instance might have been when he ran off Verstappen and his teammates to let Charles
yes.
Leclerc through at the U.S. Grand Prix.
oh yes,
And it almost cost them the Constructors' Championship to Ferrari. Luckily, they stayed ahead by 14-ish points, give or take.
maybe,
Maybe
upward of 20. But
Maybe upward of 20, but it was really,
it was
really close
tight.
at the end.
It was tight. This is the
Indeed, it
2024
was.
season that we're
tight.
talking about.
Yeah. And I guess with the remaining few minutes that we have, we could just banter about the F1 movie.
Indeed. So basically the F1 movie was said to be quite the smash hit. And like I said, especially in Austria, given the fact that F1 with Brad Pitt came out during that same time the Austrian Grand Prix was happening. And the Austrian Grand Prix was anything short of boring because at the start of the race, one of the race cars that was being...
It was
Trans-
Carlos
Carlos,
Sainz.
Yes, yeah.
He concurred, I believe it was a fire in the middle of his pit lane
Yeah,
start, or
I think it's
it was a
brakes
shutdown
caught
of the
on
software.
fire. Yes.
It was a shutdown of the software.
Yeah, it was shutdown of the software. He got it going about 2 minutes before and 2 minutes after everyone was doing their formation lap. Then he pulled into the pit lane and his brakes caught on fire and
poor
resulted
fella.
in his first DNS since Belgium 2020.
Yeah.
Indeed. So events like those, coupled with others like the Verstappen incident we just mentioned, as well as, the cars that were being built and raced during this time. And if I'm not mistaken, the Austrian Grand Prix is set to expand its racetrack and also, expand into other years, given the fact that there were lots of exciting events like these happening at the time. And given the F1 movie's international success, especially in countries like European countries, like the United Kingdom and countries like Austria and Australia to an extent, the potential for people to get into F1 has never been greater, and it's only going to get better from here, or at least it's projected to. Because in the UK alone, $9.2 million were made back from F1's
Opening,
release.
yeah, for F1's
from the
opening weekend.
week. So it really was a box office.
Yeah, and I
smash.
have a couple of statistics here from an opinion column I wrote. 560 million by August 8th. I think it was 5-6ish weeks into its release.
Sounds about right.
Could have surpassed Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning by the end of its 6th week. A lot of the commercial success in cinema was accredited to the cockpit camera that was made with the iPhone 15 that had obviously, a couple of, modifications, special modifications, and probably just the vanity of the F1 movie.
Yes.
Kind of.
I agree, because as much as it was of a hit for non-F1 viewers, it garnered so much support for the sport. For regular F1 viewers, it was a little unrealistic, but an enjoyable movie after all. And I'm glad that it garnered the attention that it did for the sport because, we could always use new fans.
Indeed. We're always looking to expand the fan base.
Yep. So I would say the only, I guess, off-putting, but at the same time, it's not the worst thing that they could do to a movie. The only off-putting aspect about the movie is people are calling this Hollywood slop. I would just call it, as it is, typical Brad Pitt typecasting movie.
You're not wrong.
It's a romantic subplot between Brad Pitt's character, Sonny Hayes, and Alana Loftus' character, Kate McKenna, the engineer.
The female engineer.
Female engineer.
For the Apex team in the movie. The Apex team is not a real team in F1. It was made up for the movie. But what was her name? Kate. Was the female engineer for the Apex team. Sonny Hayes was the old-ish driver of the team, and they had a sparking romance, and that was quite unrealistic because as the only female engineer, she would not risk her career
No, of course she
hooking
wouldn't.
up with one of the drivers. That's very unrealistic. There are plenty of other female engineers in F1 teams in real life, and they have worked very hard to get to where they are right now. Because, having females as a dominant person in F1 is quite rare, as well as the pit crew. In the movie, there was one female pit crew member, and she was the only one who made a mistake. Again, unrealistic to put that blame on her. So small nuances like that in the movie were a little inaccurate, in my opinion, but...
nevertheless, I think it was probably because, again, it's Hollywood, big industry.
Yes,
they're going to typecast Brad Pitt, this buff, blue-eyed, pretty blonde-haired, masculine guy. By the way, he is hot. Just saying that. As a straight man, I'm saying he's hot. They're going to typecast him, especially considering his history of being in melodramas and soap operas and all that stuff. He's going to be typecast, but it doesn't take away from the commercial success that the F1 movie saw, including from its investors like Apple, who was screening the movies, Warner Brothers, who took it to IMAX and gave the viewers the ultimate experience, and including Brad Pitt collaborating with Lewis Hamilton and some of the upper staff and senior members of Formula One to make sure they optimize the realism factor of the movie.
Absolutely. They did use real F1 drivers in the movie, as well as collaborated with famous singers like Tate McRae and Doja Cat.
Yeah, and Ed Sheeran for
that
was for that classic credit scene.
Yes, of course.
And let's see what else we have here. I would say just like going back to the romantic subplot, it really, I would say that it put off both male and female audience viewers because, once again, typecasting Brad Pitt as this kind of like romantic guy and having it take over what is
supposed to be like F1 cinematic
speed,
appearance,
very testosterone boosting, very like oriented towards a vanity audience, which is mostly men in this case. It's going to put them off, and they're going to be more objective against the movie. And of course, like when you portray women in movies like these, you want them to be emulated as strong, independent figures that can have a good influence on female audience viewers, young and old. And it just feels like, I don't know, I don't want to say that Kate was submitting to to Sonny Hayes as a character, but she was kind of like, there's nothing wrong with her falling for the character, but
I don't really agree because it was, if you guys have watched the movie, it was Brad Pitt's character who was pressurizing.
Yeah,
her a
yeah.
little bit.
He was pressurizing her. That's the words I was. That's what I was looking for. But yeah, otherwise, I personally rated it a solid 8.5, maybe even
It
up
was
to
an
a
enjoyable
9 out of
movie.
10.
I know we're discussing nuances here and all of the bad stuff that occurred, but we'll definitely dissect the movie a lot more in a later episode. But I think it was an enjoyable movie. Overall, and I think I would rate it like a 7. It was pretty enjoyable.
Yeah, I'd say about the same as you, Trey, like 8.5 out of 10. So even going into the motorsports industry after quite a long hiatus for me, it was like 5 years. Yeah.
It's
So, and I understand that a lot has happened, but like the nuances, I feel, even in a commercial sport like motor racing and F1, I feel like you don't have to make the romance very explicit. All right, so
yeah. So I think that just about wraps it up for the first episode of the podcast. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Once again, I'm Trey.
I'm Ash.
I'm Sachin.
And you can catch us on the next episode around this time next week, where we will be discussing some flashpoints in the WEC and endurance racing world. And that about wraps it. Thanks for stopping by in the pit lane.